It is 7:03. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. I'll ask Heather to lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Selectman Leach has notified me that he will not be here tonight. So we're going to just note that for the record. Next item of business is the approval of our minutes from the May 21st meeting. They're in the packet. Everybody had a chance to review them. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the Thursday, May 21st regular meeting.
Motion made by Heather Spencer. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rick Laborious. Any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public participation, one of two opportunities for members of the public to address the Board of Selectmen. If you'd like to do so, I'd ask that you please state your name and your address and then state your business. I will first ask if there's anybody here in the room, and then if we happen to be joined by anybody online, I'll give them the same opportunity. Is there anybody here? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Karen Tripp, 76 Winkler. I am here representing the East Windsor Housing Authority. I have a letter to read to you from our Executive Director, Marissa Pryor.
Sure.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the East Windsor Housing Authority's payment in lieu of taxes. Our current pilot payment is, excuse me, I don't have my reading glasses tonight.
Ms. Tripp, if this is about an agenda item, can we yield the floor to you when we get to that agenda item?
I didn't realize it was on the agenda.
Okay, great. Is there other public comments? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Borough. More comments on the budget. So to get a feel for what happened with the budget with the Board of Finance, I got their minutes, which was very clear on the motions that were made that passed. And you could understand what line items were altered. Okay. However, that's the closest thing we have to a summary. But that's what we have. I got proposed budget, which was released today, made available today. And again, we got 10 pages of spreadsheet mumbo jumbo. And at no point does it show the percentage of increase that this current budget represents. Zero. Says nothing. It says some baloney about what the tax increase is, but that is not the percentage increase of the budget. It's not here. Okay, so I heard your message tonight telling people they should vote. That didn't say it either.
I can't say it.
So whatever, it's a fact as opposed to a concept, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. The fact that it wasn't there is only what I'm pointing out. So that means that at this point, the public or the town has not told the public what the percentage increase that the budget represents, period. That's why the budget will probably fail. I put it up on Facebook because I have here email from Amy O'Toole to Amy Lamb that was put out 9:48 on Tuesday morning, telling the town clerk what that percentage increase is. But nobody knows it. The public doesn't have this knowledge, which is to me atrocious, because we got signs out there talking about the amount of taxes that are going to go up, but there's no information for the public as to what the percentage increase is, which, here's my announcement, 2.54%. Why the town doesn't make that public, I do not understand. It is not on the website. It is not in the documents that are on the website. It's nowhere. That to me is atrocious because people will not come out to support a budget if they don't even know what it represents. So I put it on Facebook because it's factual information to a few groups that will have minimal impact. But nobody else knows what it is, and that is totally sad. There's a chance that this big effort put in by the Board of Finance to come up with a budget that may be acceptable will fail because the information that's available to the average person is a bunch of negative signs. There isn't anything else. There's no excuse for this, none. This is sad. It's public information and I came and got it, but why isn't it public? I don't get it. So I'm very, very displeased because we are not informing the public of what they're voting on. The dollar amounts are in the legal notice, but nothing to talk about the percentage, which is what everybody's all excited about. It's terrible. Our communication, oh, wait a minute. The communication line item got cut by $15,000. So it's probably going to be even harder. The point being is likely to end up at the 2% level by default. And very few people understand what it means. And I can tell you there's some people in town who I was amazed to find out they think it's every line item goes up by 2%, which is nonsense. No, it does not. It's you folks get to decide how it's applied, which is appropriate. But that's how it's done. How many people know that? Are we explaining any of this to anybody? No, we're not. We're not telling anybody anything useful here. So your 4-page newsletter about the budget in the beginning was nice, but it's an incredible amount of detail. People glaze over and don't vote. The turnout has been horrendous. There's a block of people who vote no on the budget, no matter what it says. You could cut it by 10%. And they will still vote no, because there's some people that are just negative. They always vote. The people who may say yes, skip over it. They just don't bother. Yet we need the public to vote Tuesday. They all have opinions. Yes or no is not important. What's important is they participate. And 1,000 people is not going to cut it in this town. We're not going to ever have a good budget if we do that. So, enough said. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Yes? Name and address, please, sir.
Wayne Cherry Street. I've been trying to get a hold of Parks and Rec. Apparently, we have a meeting every other month, but it gets canceled.
Oh, really? Still?
Was it?
It got canceled again?
We'll see. As of today, I don't know. Because there's nothing on the website that says anything about it. There's no information to get a hold of anybody. I called several times to get some information. Kevin told me that 2 different times, 2 different prices about getting into the pavilions and using pavilions. As a matter of fact, we as taxpayers are paying to use our own pavilions, but yet we pay to keep up the grounds. I don't think that's fair. Anybody from Massachusetts can come down and rent it for the same exact money as us taxpayers have to pay. I don't like that one bit. Pay enough taxes, and now we gotta pay to rent the same place that we built for our taxes and is maintained with our taxes. I wish we could do something about that, Jason. I mean, I don't, as far as me going over there and approaching her nose to nose, I don't know what else to do, and I don't think that's proper for me to do. Yes, that's disgruntled person number 2.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other public comment? Just to address the first comments that were made, because this is a misconception that needs to be clarified. Under state law, once a referendum or a public vote is set, it is prescribed in the law what the government is allowed to say and not say. We are allowed to say that there is a referendum, the date of the referendum, the hours of the polling place, and if we choose to, we can recite the question that's on the ballot. That is it. So to your point about the percentage, if that is part of what is on the ballot, then we can say it. If it is not, we are precluded as soon as that becomes an established referendum question. We cannot use public resources, staff time, staff computers. We cannot talk about it. That is what the law says. It's an SEC law. It's been upheld and tested numerous times. That is all we are allowed to say. What, when, where. That's it. So I share your frustrations. I empathize with that. But the alternative is that we can say that shall the budget that's going to be presented at $48,800,000, whatever it is, be adopted? That is the question. Can't say anything else.
Okay, I have a comment on that, if I may. We have a mill rate change published
Yeah.
by the Board of Finance. And that's not on the ballot.
I'm talking about it in terms of like you heard my call is what you were referencing.
That's
All I can say is what is on the ballot.
That was, you're absolutely correct. I don't disagree with that. And if you're restricted, that is totally understandable. However, the budget information provided to the public doesn't say it either. So why is it the 2.54% doesn't show up on any documents at all except an email?
So I think the Board of Finance is probably, and this will be the last back and forth exchange because we're not.
Certainly, thank you.
I think the Board of Finance can certainly look at the process by which they lay out information for the budget referendum. But in point of fact, this stopped being the Board of Selectmen's budget in March.
Okay, but that was brought up at the Board of Finance public hearing, that we're not getting the information, and look what happened, nothing.
And you have some members of the Board of Finance who are here who
I'm
can,
not criticizing the Board of Finance, they didn't create this stuff.
it's their
It's an
document.
employee that created this stuff.
Okay.
I have my
We've
frustration.
exhausted this, so we're
No problem.
gonna move along. Communications. Two things. I'm gonna take 6B first because it's easy. I just included a proclamation on behalf of the town commemorating Pride Month. This is substantially similar to the same verbiage I use every year, but it's in the packet. There has been certainly some heated conversations in the statewide press over the last couple of days. This was submitted prior to that. But it is a month that we traditionally commemorate in the town. The first thing, 6A, is a little bit of a story, and I want to explain why this is on here as communications and not as an action item for the Board of Selectmen. There was a fire on Church Street in 2023, I think. And as a result of that, the tenants in the multifamily house were displaced and the Relocation Act was enacted. As part of that, the town assigned liens against the property owner to collect the costs associated with the relocation. There was an error that was made in the tax office who inadvertently attached those as tax liens instead of property liens. And the town ultimately settled with the property owner for the costs associated with the Relocation Act. The property owner made good on that settlement agreement and has been current on their tax payments. But because the former tax collector had assigned these as tax liens inappropriately, inadvertently, it was a mistake. The QDS is requiring something in writing from the first selectman notifying them that these were attached in error. Especially since the things that are going on in New Britain, I am certainly not going to send a letter to anybody saying that tax liens have been inappropriately attached without advising the Board of Selectmen of the details of what that is and why that is happening. This is not a vote of the board because it's a ministerial function. It simply is a communication. But I want you guys to be fully aware that I am doing this, so that, you know, any public scrutiny can withstand that this was shared in the light of day. That is why this is a communication. There's no action necessary. Happy to answer any questions about it if you'd like, but this simply unencumbers the property and clears up that there were no taxes that were owed that were not paid. Good. Okay, we have one resignation. Karen Stavelone is a member of the Arts and Culture Committee. This is a correction from the May 21st agenda item. She was reappointed after having indicated she did not want to be. That was a clerical mistake.
Sorry, there's no getting out.
So if I could just have a motion to accept her resignation, that would be appreciated.
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Karen Stavelone from the Arts and Culture Committee with regret.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, now I'm going to turn the floor over to Mrs. Sherman, and Mr. Sherman, if he's so inclined, for a discussion on the relocation of the Braille Trail signs at Melrose Park. Mrs. Sherman, good evening.
Good evening. Came before previous Board of Selectmen and asked if we could erect a trail. And now I'm asking to move it. Back in 2019, the American Heritage River Commission was awarded a grant of $86,000 to cover the cost of a walkway to be placed within the structure of the old Melrose Bridge. It was built offside and carefully placed, never touching the original bridge, which is listed with the National Register of Historic Places. Once it was installed, it gave us access to the state land on the other side of the Scantic, and we had hopes and dreams of additional trails. I felt that the original Melrose Road gave us a great place for a Braille trail. Several years before, the East Windsor Lions Club had raised money for Braille signs, and they turned that money over to the River Commission. The East Windsor Rotary, Scantic River Watershed Association, Herb Holden Company, and other organizations donated as well. And over time, we had enough of 15 signs. We erected a fence line and placed the Braille signs on it. Usually, Braille trail signs are joined by a rope or a chain so that sight impaired can follow from one side to the next using the rope as a guide. But at our trail, there's a sharp drop off on the right side of the trail, and therefore the fence was a safety precaution as well as somewhere to hang the signs. Just a bit of facts. The right side of the road is town road, belongs to East Windsor. The left side of the road is state land. Okay, and that's the reason why the fence is on the right side. Because nothing can be placed in a state park without lots of permissions, and even then, we probably wouldn't get permission. My plan was to keep that trail maintained. I thought I could do it. However, Mother Nature had some other ideas. We had several trees come down onto the fence, causing it to bend and tilt, and luckily so far, none of the signs have been damaged. But 2 years ago, working on the trail, I fell, broke my wrist, damaged the arm, and I have no longer been able to keep up that the way it should be. The other volunteer members have lots to do keeping the main trails clear of debris, and so the Braille Trail is a lower priority. The vines that are growing through the fence are actually a hazard to everyone, but not only sight impaired people. With all of that, I'm requesting permission to relocate the Braille Trail to Sabonis Landing. Of the 15 signs, 10 would be moved. The 2 signs on the bridge would stay because one identifies the bridge itself and the other identifies the company that built the pathway. One of the signs talks about the volunteers of the River Commission, and that would be relocated by the kiosk. There's another sign that talks about our trails being relocated because of Indian burial grounds. That would stay at the kiosk as well. And we would keep the sign that talks about the local barred owl close to where Gaia, the carved owl, is. The other 10, we're hoping to move. The other 10 are generic enough to the area and the Scannick River that I think they would be fine over at Sabonis Landing. I would want them positioned on the south side of the park. But given my lack of architectural design,
Thank you.
but I kind of envision it looking like this. There's 2 there, if you would, please. By it being on the right-hand side, the south side, we would not be interfering with anyone who was trying to put a canoe or kayak into the river, or if they were just sitting at the picnic table enjoying the river. But the signs would be accessible enough to anyone who wanted to read and learn about the local history that the signs describe. These signs would be placed on individual 4x4 posts planted in the ground. We would endeavor to make it easy for the highway department to mow around by putting material around them that would keep the weeds from growing. At a different grant, we were able to secure 6 park benches. 4 of them were put along the yellow tip trail. The other 2 were going to go on the blue tip trail, and that's the trails that we have yet to be able to develop. So there's 2 benches that can also go at Sabonis Landing. So my question is, do we have permission to relocate the Braille signs? And may we install 2 park benches at Sabonis Landing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Questions or comments for Mr. Sherman? Hearing none, there is a motion included in the agenda submission form.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve relocation of Braille signs to Sabonis Landing
Second.
and authorize the placement of 2 park benches.
A second.
Motion has been made by Rick, seconded by Heather. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you for everything you've done too.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to recess so that we can take up the town meeting.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Rick, seconded by Alan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are in recess at 7:26. At 7:30, I'm going to call the special town meeting to order. At 7:30, I'm going to call the special town meeting to order. Our first item of business is the election of a moderator. Are there nominations? Yes, sir.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street. I nominate Jason Bowser as moderator.
Thank you, sir. Are there other?
I'll second that. We're going for.
Thank you, Mr. Los. Are there other nominations? Are there other nominations? Are there other nominations?
We'll say before.
Motion has been made to close nominations. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Rick, seconded by Alan. All in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor of Jason Bauza as moderator, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you for that. In that case, I'm now going to ask the town clerk to read the town meeting public notice. Madam Clerk.
Town of East Windsor Public Town Meeting Notice. The legal voters of the Town of East Windsor are hereby warned that a town meeting will be held in the John Daly Jr. Meeting Room, Town Hall, 11 Rise Street, Broadbrook, on Thursday, June 4th, 2026 at 7:30 PM for the following. A, to consider and vote on an amendment to Ordinance 20-1 pertaining to the election process for the Town of East Windsor Broadbrook Fire Commissioners. B, to consider and vote on an 8-24 referral release of easement for 6 Craftsman Road. C, to consider and vote on $126,847.87 for the purchase of a wheelchair accessible yellow school bus for the Board of Education. Dated at East Windsor, Connecticut, this 29th day of May, 2026. East Windsor Board of Selectmen, Jason E. Bauza, First Selectman, Rick Laborious, Deputy First Selectman, Heather Spencer, Selectman, Alan Baker, Selectman, and Bob Leach, Selectman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm now going to read the eligibility to vote. This is from Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 90, Section 7-6. At any town meeting other than a regular or special town election, or at any meeting of any fire, sewer, or school district, or any other municipal subdivision of any town incorporated by any special act, any person who is an elector of such town may vote, and any citizen of the United States of the age of 18 years or more who jointly or severally is liable to the town, district, or subdivision for taxes assessed against him on an assessment of not less than $1,000 on the last completed grand list of such town, district, or subdivision, or who would be so liable if not entitled to an exemption under Connecticut General Statute subdivision 17, 19, 22, 23, 25, or 26 of Section 12-81 may vote unless restricted by the provisions of any special act relating to such town, district, or subdivision. So with that said, I'm now going to ask whoever has resolution number 1 to please bring that.
Item number 1, to consider and vote on an amendment to ordinance 20-1 pertaining to the election process for Town of East Windsor Broadgrove Fire Commissioners. I'll move the foregoing resolution.
That's Heather Spencer. Is there a second? Carol Muska. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Who has resolution number 2, please?
I do, Alan Baker, 340 Rice Street. To consider and vote on an 824 referral release of easement for 6 Craftsman Road. I move the foregoing resolution be adopted.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Paul Anderson. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution clearly passes. Resolution number 3, please.
Number 3, Tom Lansner, 27 Laurel Circle. To consider and vote on $126,847.87 for the purchase of a wheelchair accessible yellow school bus for the Board of Education. I move the foregoing resolutions be adopted.
Thank you, sir. That's Tom Lansner. Is there a second?
Second.
Heather Spencer. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Who maintains this bus?
Dr. Tudrin.
So we have in our,
Hold on one second. Dr. Patrick Tudrin, Superintendent of Schools. Go ahead, Doctor.
so we have in our transportation, contract that our current, Smith bus would provide labor. We would have to pay for it.
Cost currently.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Does the busing cost currently you're replacing?
So we currently contract out for that contract. For one buses, it can range between 50,000 and 75,000 a year. So what this would allow us to do is contract out on a transportation vehicle outright. And thus would have savings on operational going forward.
So it could be 50 or it could be 75.
Well, it depends on the company you contract out, so there's a range.
Well,
They're doing as well. That's our special ed director, so she has the actual number.
Yeah, it's actually closer to 75.
Awesome. Yeah, the percent goes up every year with our contracted service, so we have to.
pay driver for it? Or is it driver?
So
we're going to pay the drivers to include the bus.
correct, so this would support our transition program to 18 to 22 year old for students 18 to 22 years old that are eligible through the special ed process. It provides job related skills throughout the community. So the way the bus will work, they're going to be dropping students and job coaches to various job sites to support their mandated goals. It would be one of the job coaches' responsibilities.
So who drives the bus?
The job coach, who's already employed with us.
So is it doing that?
They work on the job site. So they ride the bus. They're riding the bus as a passenger.
Okay, so they're okay with that.
Yes,
They have a special license?
they will, yes.
Okay, so how much is this gonna cost to maintain you know?
As far as,
What's it gonna cost the town to keep this bus running?
so it'll be part of the Board of Ed, budget, as I indicated, it would be far less, than the cost of contracting the bus outright. The maintenance would be, minimal, because it would be a brand new vehicle, as I indicated, it would be part of the regular maintenance plan. Through Smith Bus, they maintain one vehicle for us already. Our contract allows up to 3 district, vehicles, so this would be the second one. We actually, our contract even allows up to 3 vehicles.
That's another thing we maintain. Another thing we maintain. We're hurting money now.
And I mean,
This isn't gonna put us in position, we're already hurting for money. We should, prove a grand list and we'll be able to afford it. Right now, our grand list sucks. So I don't think it's a wise choice this time. I did it, we could say it.
yeah, to be clear, I mean,
It'll save money up to 3 years past. But right now, it's not gonna, we're hurting for money.
and to be clear, money, which, the Board of Selectmen were trying to, send back to the board was secured through, a lawsuit that the Board of Ed pursued. Essentially went through mediation and then was reallocated back towards, the Board of Ed as far as where the funding sources actually come.
Say that again.
The money came from a lawsuit. They won a lawsuit, settlement funds are being used to buy the bus.
Well, the lawsuit can also pay for some of the other bills in town. I get it. I get it. But,
Lady in the third row.
Betsy Morris, 16 Church Street. So one thing that I do want you to know is that, the transition program that we have in Windsor.
Yeah.
The transition program is mandated by the state. So that's not something that we do in addition. Young people who are 18 to 24 years old still get to receive educational services. So this is something that we have to do. Honestly, I'm gonna say, Patrick and also Ryan did, I think, a very good job looking at long-term. In the end, what will be, to our advantage as a school system to be able to provide. We have to provide this. The yellow school bus that we have right now, it's not working, so we have to replace it. And so, okay?
I didn't say it was bad of you. I
Okay,
just said.
I'm trying to explain it a little bit more. So if I went over the top, just tell me.
Yeah, you did. So I just think it's a bad idea right now. We're hurting for money. At home, when I'm hurting for money, I don't, buy something as a Band-Aid just to keep you happy. I mean, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. This town seems to be hurting for money pretty bad. And a lot of it goes to the school system right now. I just, my own opinion, bad idea.
Is there any other public comment? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street. Just want to clarify my understanding. Got through a lawsuit, there was a settlement, and there's money available. And it's been allocated to the Board of Ed, is that correct?
This approval would be the allocation.
It would be allocated to the Board.
Yes.
Okay, is there restrictions on the use of that money?
No. So if I could offer some background, the settlement is the result of a lawsuit that took place over several years. Because, and had it happened within the fiscal year that the suit was brought, that money would have been credited back to the Board of Education.
Okay, fair enough.
Because the fiscal year had come to a close, all that money lapses to the undesignated fund balance. The Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance agreed that because this money had been budgeted by the taxpayers in East Windsor to be spent for education, that we would award it back to the Board of Education for an appropriate educational use. It's also one-time money. So the use for a one-time purchase for educational purposes tracks well with what the purpose of the money would be for, and making sure we don't encumber any unforeseen long-term ongoing expenses.
Excellent, thank you.
Is there other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Annie Ferrer, 6 Abbey Road. My husband and I actually have a daughter with special needs who has been with East Windsor since she was 3. So she has written the yells to us. They can help us. I mean, it's been an extremely important thing to know that she's safe going to and from school. And in 4 years, she's going to high school this year, so in 4 years she will be in. Without that transportation, I don't know. We have 5 children. We wouldn't be able to transport her where she needed to go. That would be very difficult for us. So I fully support the purchase. I'm glad there's funds available from when we set the lawsuit. I just want people to know that there are real within this town who really need it. And we have benefited greatly from the special ed program. These towns has been phenomenal for our daughter. She's gone from not even walking to not even speaking to doing fantastically, growing so much, speaking, learning, just has benefited greatly. And I just want you to know that it's super important that we continue providing all the resources necessary for these kids. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your story. For the second time, sir.
Just clear, I'm not against this. I just don't think this time is a good time to spend the money. I just think we have a program now, yeah, it's draining us, but still it's, you know, we can take that money from the lawsuit. What is this lawsuit, may I ask?
Dr. Tudrin, you want to provide some color?
So it was settled through mediation. But it was essentially as far as not performing their duties to the fullest, as far as our former business office who was dismissed in December of 2021, I believe.
It was an outside vendor that was contracted to perform the service.
Can I ask how much it was? Did the lawsuit settle for?
Yeah, so for 180, but after paying attorney's fees, the balance is what's on the 126.
Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Dr. Miska, 12 Church Street, Broadway. How many students would avail themselves to be able to use this fund?
Dr. Tudrin?
So the program on average has 8 to 12 students per year. So it varies based on need and eligibility.
Okay, and if we didn't provide this, what would happen then? What happens to these kids?
So we're mandated required. So to be clear, there's going to be transportation regardless. So the question is, do we own the vehicle outright? We continue to contract out and have an outside binder.
Okay, and in the long run, what would be the most efficient and effective way to do it?
By owning the vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Is there other public discussion? Asking a second time? Asking a third time? All in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Right here.
Motion clearly passes. With no further action to come before the special town meeting, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make motion to adjourn, Bill Lowe.
Bill Lowe made the motion. Is there a second? Heather Spencer, second. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The town meeting is adjourned at 7:46 PM. Board of Selectmen will reconvene in a moment or two. All right, it is 7:50. I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen meeting back to order. 7:50, I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen meeting back to order. If anybody could take private conversations in the hall, it's great. Our next item of business involves our tax assessor, Ms. Tots. Good evening. So this is one of those things where we can look to enhance revenue for the town in different ways. I have had conversations with the town administrator in the town of Vernon. I understand Helen has had conversations with her counterpart. But what the town of Vernon is doing is they are going after unregistered motor vehicles to make sure that they are properly listed on the tax rolls, and that any taxes owed are being paid to the municipality in which the vehicle actually resides. I asked Helen to look into a couple of options. My intention is to put one of these services, or is to engage one of these services, and I wanted to bring it to the Board of Selectmen for you guys to think about which you would prefer, how you want to go about doing this. Helen.
Okay. I've worked in a couple towns where we've had this program, Waterbury being one of the front runners many, many years ago. Right now, we have 12 towns in the state that do have a program in place. And what it is that the town hires a company to identify unregistered or improperly registered vehicles that are in the town. By Connecticut state law, anyone that comes into the state of Connecticut from another state has 90 days in order to register their vehicles. That doesn't always happen. Up in this neck of the woods, we're near the Massachusetts border. I've had complaints from residents in the town about Massachusetts plates being in town when they actually live here, and they're receiving our services, their children going to our school. That's just one example. The company, if hired, there are two companies in the state at the moment that does this type of work. They'll determine, they use license plate readers. They determine ownership and residency over a 90-day period of any questionable vehicles. They'll conduct any investigative research and look for the evidence of residency in town. Once they identify, usually on a monthly basis, a group of vehicles, and they've done due diligence, they will send that information to the assessor to add the motor vehicles to the grand list. They do this working with our software vendor, so it does not increase the workload of the staff itself in the assessor's office. The company is the first point of contact for any taxpayer disputes, for any submission of evidence refuting the claim that the vehicle is illegally or improperly registered. The company, both companies operate on a commission basis. So they earn a commission on any additional tax revenue that's collected initially. And both companies also charge a fee to the taxpayer in addition to the taxes, the delinquent charges, and then a fee that goes directly to the company. So there's no out-of-pocket expense for the town. And from what I'm told, that equals no need to do an RFP looking for bids on a program like this. Let's see. We do in the assessor's office occasionally receive lists from our state assessors association. They'll contact Florida, New Hampshire, Maine, New York, Vermont, ask for lists of anybody that has a vehicle registered in their state, and to send the information to us so we can add them to our list. It's labor intensive. We have to document if the vehicles are actually located here, or are they vehicles that stay at a summer home in New Hampshire, or people that have out-of-state Florida residences. They may use mailing address here, but the vehicle isn't here. So all that kind of investigative stuff is done by the company. In the agenda, I included information from two companies. Like I said, there are only two that I could find that does this type of work in the state. and a sample letter from the town of Vernon, which just implemented a program in April. So questions?
Oh. You had to start with me.
I got a question.
Don't have any questions.
I do.
Go ahead. I have something to say, but go.
You said there was no need for an RFP. However,
That's what I understand.
well, there may not be a need for it, but if these two companies, are their fees identical? Are their setups and their commission identical?
That would be questions directly for the company. I didn't know how far to go tonight. I didn't know if maybe you would want to have each of the companies come in, do a presentation more thoroughly to explain the details like that.
Essentially, that is following an RFP process, because even if we bring both companies in, I'd like to see what their fee structure is ahead of time, so that their proposal to us should include that information.
Right. Like I said, I wasn't sure exactly how far to go tonight.
Yeah.
Find out if there's interest, what other steps you might want to take.
There are the same protections on the use of the data that the police speed cameras have.
Yes, yes, it's strictly between the companies and the assessors and the tax collector
They are prohibited from,
from sharing that information with anyone else.
Does CAAO have a recommended vendor? We didn't talk about that.
No. No, we only have, like I said, about 12 other towns in the state. Some of them are quite large and they reap really big benefits because they have large apartment complexes. Hamden has 2 colleges within in dormitories and apartment houses, and so they pick up a lot. I wouldn't see anything close to that here, but we would be able to pick up the vehicles from the first point of discovery. Depending on the investigations, we could go back 3 years if they've been in town that long and they can document that. We would pick up an additional 2 years plus the current. And then they would receive information that they would have to register the vehicle per Connecticut state law in the state of Connecticut.
How many vehicles do you think currently?
I wouldn't even guess, but they do look for not just out of state, out of town, and also unregistered motor vehicles, because those are also taxable on our personal property list.
Is there a differentiation between an unregistered motor vehicle and like a junk car? Or a parts car?
That's a really good question. I would say it would be the decision of the assessor whether or not to add an unregistered vehicle that's been sitting in a cornfield for 25 years versus just an unregistered vehicle parked in someone's driveway that is drivable.
didn't the changes in state statute in recent years and the requirements as to how the assessments are levied, didn't that take away some of that discretion?
Yes, and that's why they would be picked up, unregistered would be picked up as personal property, rather than put on the motor vehicle list itself. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I hesitated, because of that. We have to go to MSRP.
Right.
Yeah.
Alan?
Thanks. First of all, I'd like to say that, like, I get what you guys are doing. You're trying to get more revenue. We do have an issue. You're looking for all the ways. I appreciate the effort, but
I just think this is like going the wrong direction. I think this is basically we're not even asking, we're telling the people of East Windsor to submit to a mass surveillance program, right? It's the definition of a fishing expedition for an undetermined small fraction of the people that might be doing things wrong. I'm just philosophically against it 100%. I'm just really a hard no on this.
Okay.
So, and I'll just go a little bit further, I guess. With the license plates readers the traffic camera, there's a public safety component to it, right? So there's benefits to this to people from, maybe people won't get run over, maybe people won't get in bad accidents. There's a component to that I think kind of resets the balance a little bit. I'm still not good with mass surveillance, period, right? At least that's got like a very specific component. This is a civic thing. And as the government, we are just going after anybody and everybody. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a slippery slope. And I think if we're going to start adopting more of these technologies, then we do need to do a more holistic type of an ordinance on how we're going to handle all that stuff. But even then, this is not something that I'd be for.
The technology makes it easier to do, but this process has been done for decades. This is not a new process.
No, I know, and I've always been against it. I still am.
And it is an issue it can be argued anyway, that it's an issue of equity. That if someone has their cars registered in Vermont or New Hampshire or Florida, and they live here more than 6 months of the year, that it's cheating the other taxpayers.
I get that argument. I still don't think it outweighs the mass surveillance. You're telling everybody to submit to yet another method of mass surveillance of the population. And I don't think that it outweighs that small fraction. What's our collection rate? We assume 98.5. It's over 100 every year. Right? So we're already collecting more than 100% of the property of the car taxes.
It's 100% of the 98.5%. We're not collecting 100% of the levy percent.
Okay, we're right up there. Like, it's a small fraction. And like, what are you going to pick up? 30 vehicles? Right? 40?
Do you have any data on how many Vernon has done?
They just started in April, so they don't even have a.
So, and let's say that's 20 or 30 people out of 10,000. How many cars do we have registered?
Well, we know how many
12,000.
We don't know how many we don't.
Well, how many are registered, right? Like, there's a lot. So you're going to tell everybody you're all getting surveilled. Everybody's getting looked into, just in case there might be some people out here that are doing things wrong.
I have a question. Unregistered motor vehicles. Would that include like Southern Auto?
No, that's inventory.
Okay.
And exempt by statute. Yeah.
That would be up. Your argument would get a lot worse then.
Many years ago, inventory was taxable. And when I first started in this business, we would go in Waterbury, go to the local auto dealers and sit in the car and count the number of front row cars, because those were always the most recent, most expensive cars, and extrapolate from that an estimate of what their inventory was worth. Until they, got rid of inventory as being taxable.
Maybe what we should do is follow what happens in Vernon over the next several months, 2 months, and revisit.
I think I would feel more comfortable with the traffic and giving that to the people to vote on than I would feel comfortable with this at the moment.
This is a way of clamping down on people who are cheating on their taxes.
I understand that, but I think that
There is other ways to do that. Those people do get caught in other ways. And I think that take any example of, should we have a warrant or not, right? There's a shortcut and there's the right way. And I think this is a shortcut. And I think there's other ways that it can be done. And you described one that could be improved with technology, which is not going and
What was the one?
where you're getting lists from other states. I mean, I'm thinking of an AI agent right now that could take care of that, right? So like there's other ways to do it without just surveilling the whole town. Having people going around all over the place with a license plate reader and scooping up everything that they can in everybody's private property. Right. No, thank you.
The one problem with our office trying to enforce illegally registered cars, and I have a file of complaints from residents about their neighbors, concerned citizens, that are upset because there is a Massachusetts plate or a New Hampshire or Florida plate on the cars. I have no way to identify an out-of-state license plate and who the owner is. Some states, some of the states that we try to work with refuse to give us the lists. They're protected under FOI. So because these people are licensed as investigators, they have access to the databases to get the information that we can't get.
The other thing is the normal enforcement mechanism that we have to compel people to pay delinquent property taxes doesn't work, which is, we don't let them register
Right.
with the state of Connecticut. If they're already registered improperly in some other place, then that's a collection system not available to us. A significant one, actually.
I'm trying to see if either of the companies gives numbers, but it does say that on average, a town can expect the number of vehicles improperly registered or unregistered to be about 10% of all the vehicles that are scanned.
That is significant.
It's a big number.
Unmoved.
All right, I'll bring this back in a couple of months when we have some more data from Vernon.
Okey
Hold
doke.
on that for me, please.
Sure.
All right, next up. All right, discuss and vote on the pilot agreement between the town of East Windsor and the Housing Authority. Marisa has joined us. I recognize Sharon first during public participation, so I'm still going to give you the right of first refusal here, and then we'll turn to Marisa.
Just got reading glasses,
She has refused. Marisa, the floor is all yours.
Are you nearsighted or farsighted? These are for farsighted people who can use them. Oh.
Seriously, come on.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to discuss our pilot, the payment of in lieu of taxes, our stock agreement. Our current pilot payment is calculated at 5% of rental income, less utilities and vacancy loss. Maintaining this rate is important to the housing authority's long-term financial stability and ability to operate independently without relying on state and federal programs to meet capital needs. In addition to managing day-to-day operating expenses, we must be prepared to address emergency repairs at Park Hill without increasing rents and placing additional financial strain on our residents. Because Park Hill does not receive state or federal rent subsidies, we remain committed to preserving affordability with current base rents ranging from $429 to $700. Central to our mission is providing safe, affordable housing for seniors and individuals with disabilities, and it is essential that we continue to uphold that commitment. We respectfully request your consideration in maintaining our pilot payment at 5% for the next 4 years. Your support would significantly strengthen our ability to achieve long-term sustainability
and continue providing affordable housing to members of our community who depend on it. We have worked hard to reach a point of financial stability, and it is important that we are able to maintain an increase in the pilot payment would hinder that progress and make it more difficult for us to continue moving forward. So I come before you asking that we leave the pilot payment at 5% and not increase it.
Questions or comments?
I have a couple questions.
Fire away.
So you guys have been requesting this since 2013. It was at 7 and then it went to 5. Can anybody speak to why it went down 2%? If the whole time has been to just, I understand down, it makes it easier for them, but what was our reason for doing that? You all?
So they were in financial trouble. At a point in time, they had almost nothing in their savings account.
Okay.
And the town had stepped in to temporarily, and you can see the history, the documents, that it was intended to be temporarily, to temporarily reduce their tax obligation from 10% down to 7%. And then it was down to 5%.
Yeah.
So they now have about $450,000, I think, in the bank, which is significantly improved over where they were. I included the history of this issue in the packet for a couple of reasons. First of all, I wanted to show that there is a history of doing it.
Yeah.
I wanted to show what the history of that percentage was. And Marisa caught me a little flat when she just asked for a 4-year extension, because there's only, as I look through here, there's only one time that was done. They're typically either 1-year or 3-year extensions. There is one in there that is a 4-year, but that was an outlier. So their financial position is improved from where it was. We're now sitting in a position where ours is not so great, at least for the next fiscal year. On the other hand, the difference between 5% of their rentals net of expenses and 10%, it's about a $20,000 difference. It's going from about 22,000 to about 44,000. An additional $22,000 is certainly not going to fix our revenue issues this year. So, I mean, it depends on, I really am bringing it to you to say, like, what is the consensus of the board here?
And I guess a couple of questions I have, just brand new to understanding it, is you had said that you guys don't have state or federal. Would the state be considering giving them any kind of grants with the new housing program that they've got going on? Is that
They have
something
a
that
number
they're
of
going to?
grants that are in process. There's so the town has extended our CDBG umbrella, Community Development Block Grant umbrella, to the Housing Authority on a number of occasions, including an active grant right now. And Marisa, you have a couple of other grants. I can't remember what they are offhand, but there's a couple of other in the pipeline. Can you speak to those?
Yes, so the grants that we do receive do not cover rents, do not pay our bills. They are, one grant we received was a community investment grant, funding grant for $250,000. That is for a feasibility study to develop the 7 and 6 acre parcels that we do have. That really doesn't help Park Hill.
Right.
It's to develop more housing. Another grant that I received was a $10,000 grant from the state, CHFA, Connecticut Housing Finance Authority. That was for a residential fund grant. And we've received, we're all about the grants. Unfortunately, the grants don't pay the bills. So it's all the fun stuff. We received a $2,000 grant from the Harper Foundation for Giving. And with that grant, we provide a fresh fruit pantry once a month to our residents. That coincides with the food share grant that happens at St. Catherine's Church twice a month. So our residents, we supplement their food. It's fresh fruit, vegetables, pantry items, meats, breads, all of that. And that happens at the last week of the month where there is no money left. In addition, we received a $2,400 grant from the East Windsor Greater Together, and that affords us to do a coffee hour and lunch
once a month each, so that offsets their food budget. So we give them coffee and muffins, bagels, whatever, and lunch once a month. And when I say lunch, I mean lunch. We expand it out to $200 a month, and 90% of that $200 is on lunch. We did a taco bar, we did meatball grinders, we have a catered from Manilis, we have Costco pizza, and we have salads and fresh fruit. So the grants are for our residents to supplement their pantry, their food, because food insecurities is a huge problem. So they have to pay the rent so we can keep a roof over their heads. And we in turn help feed them with the grants.
Okay. What was your overall cost last year for just the expenses that this is helping offset?
Okay, so I did bring our pilot that we've paid in the past few years. Last year, we paid almost $24,000, $23,942.76.
And that's for expenses for the properties?
So we had rental income of just shy of $452. Plus our excess of rental was just shy of 62,000, minus our dwelling vacancy loss, which was $1,200. That totaled $512,479.96. From that, we deduct utilities, which was $33,624.84. A total of that was $478,855.12. 5% of that was $23,942.76, which was paid to the town. The same process, the year before that was $21,990.01. Year before that, same process was $20,290,076. I projected this year, without it not being the end of the year, I projected it to be just shy of $24,000 at 5%. So when I started just 13 years ago, we almost didn't make payroll. Our base rents were $75, $150. We've got them up to $429. We stratify, so they vary, $429 to $700. Each unit is assigned a base rent. Some are still at $200 and $329. As those units vacate, I assign them a higher base rent. So yes, we have $450,000 in the bank. CAFA's policy is I have to have $1,000 in replacement reserves per unit, 84,000. Once I have the 84,000, every year I have to put $350 per unit in the bank, which equates to 29,400. Every year I have to build that replacement reserve.
Okay.
So $450,000 is not a lot of money.
Right.
Something catastrophic happens, I have no money left.
Okay. Does that include because you guys just sold a house on the property, does that include that, or is that
does
something
not
that?
include it. That's so we have Park Hill and we have EWHA. Those are two different companies.
Okay.
I can't intermingle
Okay.
those funds.
Yep.
It's two different businesses that we have to run.
Yep.
I can't borrow. If I have to borrow, I have a certain amount of time to pay it back.
Okay.
So like I said, $450,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it is pennies in the bucket. Something catastrophic happens if I have to replace a mini split, we heat and AC is a mini split, one of those units. That's $12,000 I'm looking at, times 84. There's my $400,000. You know, our roofs are over 15 years old. So I have to start building my reserves, my capital needs funding to replace those. So if I'm not receiving a subsidy now for rent, I'm never, ever gonna get on the subsidy list with the state or the federal government. I'm told that over and over again.
What do you mean by if you're not receiving a subsidy? I don't understand
I
that.
don't receive any subsidies for my rents. Like Enfield, they receive subsidies for some of their units for rents. So
From whom?
the
State.
state and the federal government, HUD. So my tenants pay 31% of their rent. That's my only income. That's what pays for this. So if you receive a subsidy, like your tenants will pay 30%, say your rent is $1,000 a month, they're gonna pay 30% and the state will pay you that difference. I don't,
Against the market rate or against your posted rate?
whatever my rent is.
Okay,
So I don't have that luxury
I see.
Why?
Yeah.
because there's no money for me to get a subsidy from the state.
What makes us different than Enfield?
We never applied for that whenever that happened. And now if you're not on that program, you're not getting on that program, unfortunately. So there is no money for you to get on that program.
So when we build new units on the 7 acres, that won't be,
No,
none of that'll be subsidized rents either?
no, that won't. Possibly a RAP program where,
What is that?
so I don't know what the acronym stands for. I apologize, but sometimes you can get people who are given some type of money to help with their rent. And
Section 8 existing?
Section 8 existing, I take Section 8. So hopefully they get into a unit that has a $700 base rent.
Who administers our Section 8?
Windsor Locks. Yes. I did have one tenant pay Section 8 and the highest rent at that point was 500. She paid $75 a month, but Section 8 paid the difference.
Yeah.
I can't increase rent because I have someone at Section 8 moving in.
No.
That'd be a big no.
So when the time comes that you are able to build those other units, that'll affect us because we are the tax base, right? There's a less tax base that we're gonna get.
Well, right. I mean, to be fully transparent, I've had conversations with the chairman of the authority that right now, the town covers their sewer connection costs. It's about $38,000. I've made it very clear that that is not a cost we're going to expand when they do. Because that already is quite an undertaking on our part. And that's, John's, he gets that. So, I mean, that would be a justification, I suppose, to do a shorter term pilot, which historically has happened.
Right.
Do you remember why we did a 3-year last year instead of year to year? Was it just to put it to bed?
I don't remember, but I do remember that I thought we were through all the things that I've seen the first term. This started in my first term in 2011. This is one of the last things we did in that term. And to look back now, so looking back and see what the effect of that was probably a good idea, right? It's put you guys, or it's been one of the factors, not the only factor, but one of the factors that's put them in a healthy position. I think it's a worthwhile thing to do.
I don't want to see people's rents go up because I think that housing is such an important thing right now. But I also,
I did reach out to Kate Fisher. She was for asset manager for 10 years. She's moved up at Chapa. And to ask what the average is of housing authorities that pay pilot. And she said the average pilot percentage is 5%. Some pay 0. And some are at 7 or 10, but the average pilot is at 5%. Just to let you know.
no, the 2%, like between the 7 and the 5, that's insignificant. grand scheme of things, but I wonder if we should shorten it so we can.
Shorten the duration?
Yeah, we'll maybe do a 2-year, readdress it.
It seems as though the duration is up to us to establish. And there's language that has been in the historical record that, we set the terms and if they accept that, great. If not, then it defaults back to the 10% rate. So I get the sense that our terms are going to be what we go by. So if you want to do a 2-year term, we can do a 2-year term. If you want to do, an annual or a 3-year, I mean, it seems to be, we can do it as we deem appropriate.
I just offer this and I'm fine with whatever term you guys want to do. And the only thing I'm not for is going more than 5%. But if you look at this, there's been no appetite by any board of selectmen since 2013 to go higher, to put it back to 10.
Yeah.
Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? 5 seems to be the number.
If I was to, I've been around for a while, but we haven't talked about that particular thing. My guess would be to preserve the option, but you're right, we haven't had any serious conversations about triggering it. But I think it's one of those things we don't want to give away because someday the circumstances may change. But I agree with your
I don't have
point.
strong feelings on it, but it just seems like, as I was reading through this, it was like, it's kind of like we've just been doing this now and there's been a lot of different people sitting in these seats and nobody has said, well, it's a better idea if we go to 10 or 15 or anything else, right? I mean, there was the short jump to 7 and it's been 5 since we set it to 5.
Did Helen leave? Helen left. Okay.
But anyway.
My reason for questions is, 1, it's the first time I've seen it.
Yep.
But 2, the language is always so we can build our reserves, And I feel like I needed to have an understanding of what the reserves are in order to understand.
Absolutely.
Is it?
I agree 100% with your questions.
If we do 2 years, I think that gives us let's have a check-in, see where they're going with anything that's going to happen on the property, expansion wise.
2 years sounds reasonable in that if the 7 acres is developed and sewer use charges change, we may want to look at the overall the pilot and the sewer charges and balance something in a couple of years.
The other thing that I've shared with Marisa and with John, so we've done the last couple of town CDBG grant applications aimed at Park Hill. There are town side projects that need to be addressed. So when that opportunity comes up next, that'll probably for at least a cycle have to be redirected back to town side projects that are covered by that.
But they have other grant opportunities.
They have, I will say, Maurice's killing it in terms of grants. She's like raining grant money.
But in terms of new development, that grant funding has other sources as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And you asked a question as to whether or not this is not directly related to this, but you asked about whether or not any housing expansion would count towards our 8002 requirements. The answer to that is it depends on when that development hits the pipeline relative to when the municipal targets are developed. So, for example, the housing project that's on the Mullen Road site is likely to be ahead of our municipal target. So that will not count towards what the recommended target is. But I'm going to also take an assumption here that the Park Hill expansion probably will be after those targets are released, which is probably in 27 or 28. So those would count towards our housing development targets. Relative to 830G, we're somewhere between 13 and 14%, whereas 830G requires a 10% up. So we are, when I meet with people who are interested in doing apartment development, the guys from Mullen Road or the guys from Bridge Street, I make it clear to them that we don't have an 830G requirement at this point because we're in excess of it.
Right. Okay.
So we seem to agree that we want to maintain the 5% level, and we seem to agree that we want to do a 2-year term. Is that where the table is? Yes.
I'll move the Board of Selectmen approve the pilot stay at 5% for an additional 2 years.
Okay.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay,
Thank you very much.
go on.
Appreciate it.
Last but not least, Deputy Chief Murphy, are you running point or Chief Carl?
Deputy Chief has done a really good job. But I yield by, limited authority to him, but I do have some questions. So,
Why don't you guys come on up? We'll dive right in.
You guys want chairs instead of standing?
So, what do you got for us?
I thought you had questions.
I do. So the ordinance, first of all, I apologize. You sent it to me a couple of days ago. I had a family emergency and I just saw it this afternoon. So I just got to accept it. But one of the things that this draft ordinance that I have one comment, and of one concern. So in section, let's see. Two.
Didn't print it. So,
Under articles, I'll get to it.
I have one that I thought Ben had brought up that is missing in this draft. We had adjusted it in our conversation and it was in our outline, but so, we're obviously concerned about the retention of the data and I had originally had it set at 30 days and in the statute,
Up to a year.
it's up to a year which makes sense if it's more than one violation in a year. How are you going to know if there's more than one violation if you're getting rid of it every 30 days? So that somehow got dropped out of our outline when it came to this draft.
Well, that was one of the first things that I had. So if you're in Article 6, Section 3, which the pages aren't numbered, that's what took me so long to get them. I had to count them on my fingers.
I'm going to just take a minute and run a couple of copies. Ben and Deputy Chief Murphy had sent his comments. I want to get those to the board too. So continue on. I'll just be a minute or two.
Yep. Okay, so anyways, with the Section 3 of which you can't see, this is the best way to negotiate is when you have no information.
Good try.
We have all the information, so we could pass this right along. Jay's gone, you got 3, we're good. But anyways, in that section, if you guys could trust me, it talks about that 30-day retention. And so the issue is their state statute. So one of the things that came out of this last legislative session was a robust conversation about LPRs, which these are not. But they did talk about them in that 21-day retention period, and they exempted speed cameras because there's already state statute that governs the collection, retention sort of part of that doesn't allow for any sharing of information anywhere. And so, for example, if the cameras go up, we're not getting LPRs capture every vehicle going through. Right? This only captures violators. And then through the first and second process, if it passes those two, sends for the third process, the violator information to the police department. So that's different from LPRs. We're only getting violators. And we're seeing that and either verifying or not verifying, and then it goes away. The data is not, although we own it, it can't be shared with anybody. It's not stored physically in any server within the police department, like some of the other data we have. It's in endlets. So the state statute governs how that is supposed to do. So I don't think that we should include a 30-day restriction in here that we can't enforce.
Right, we had set it to 1 year because
Right.
we wanted to match the state statute for the speed camera statutes. And even though like it's kind of just repeating the statute, I felt like for citizens, like having it like everybody knows to look in, you can look at the ordinance and this is a lot easier to read than if you try to read that statute. So like we're pulling out some of the stuff that's sort of just repeating, but it's also making it clear this is what this is the protections we've set,
And
it should be 1 year.
this is a little clumsy. If you read through this,
It's kind of repeating in two different places.
it is. The second part of that was more of a service related. If you go to section 5 of that same article, use of revenue, we include road safety, which is statutory, it's in the statute. You have, pedestrian infrastructure, traffic calming measures, crosswalk, sidewalk improvements, and costs associated with the administration of the program. One of the things we failed to put in there is education. So you can use a certain percentage of it. I don't want to make it up, it's something like 10% for education. So, for example, we have a newly minted emergency operation vehicle EVOC instructor in our police department, one of very few in the state. And although we don't want to teach 16-year-olds how to pursuit drive, I think there's some value to an instructional part of that, and whether it's a simulator or something going into the school, talking about how the fact that you think you can control a 4,000-pound vehicle, but you can't, the distance, stopping distance with speed. Because frankly, the instruction that you get from getting your driver's license, having sent 4 of my kids through, is terrible, absolutely terrible. And so they don't know distances, they don't know speeds and how things are. I think we can teach some of that, and we could use this money, and that's not included in the ordinance. I think we should add that.
Yeah, and I think that is in the statute.
What's that?
That it specifically says
Right.
education is,
Right.
so.
And we go on to list the things in that statute that are here, but we neglect to put education.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's semantics to put it in there. We also talk about what you can't use the funds for, which is good. But then the deputy chief brought up a good point. There's other things that we could use it for that's not in there. That's
Well, yeah, police overtime to manage the system specifically needs to be in there. That needs to be the driver of this, because we're going to be the ones doing the lion's share of this work. And we're going to have to fund somebody to sit and actually do this work, unless the town is interested in bringing in somebody else, which at this point, with everything else going on, I don't think is a good idea, nor am I suggesting that. And the other thing is, like the chief said, traffic enforcement equipment as well. This isn't just to build roads, it's traffic safety as well. So all of that needs to go in there of what this can be used. I'm just gonna say, I don't believe we should veer too far off of, we can provide additional securities for our residents, but we shouldn't veer too far off of the actual statute and the laws itself. When we start doing that, we're just adding things in, and we've already shown just in a few things, we've omitted some very important things that actually are, germane to this actually being an operation.
Yeah, the statute specifically says, though, it specifically says, feel free to add more if you want, right? And I don't think we've added anything that's kind of out of the spirit of the ordinance, but certainly making it very clear, not only to our residents, but to any vendors that we have, like exactly how we want things done, So, I mean, I don't have a problem with adding those things, but I'm not looking to take too much out.
Well, I just think like you have in there no sharing with, federal authorities and stuff like that. I agree. I just think that 30-day, the deletion of any information or data within 30 days is something we might not be able to do.
It doesn't make any sense because the statute says you can keep it for a year, which makes sense because you have to. You're going to do the $75 or it's 50 and then 75?
50 and 75.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And then that resets every year, which is kind of odd, but that's what it is.
Right. So Jason, you want me to tell you what we did?
I assumed you guys had this all squared away.
Much.
Yeah, that would be great, please.
We had a conversation about in Article 6 of Section 3 of Article 6, which is almost towards the end. There's a conversation we had about the 30 days, the deletion of data within 30 days, which is really, it's governed by state statute that the collection and retention and that we should probably reference state statutes up to 1 year because we can't really enforce that 30-day. The other part of it was more of a revenue use. In Section 5, we talked about a handful of things we could use it for, but I think we got to include education. That's omitted in there.
That would be like sub 6.
Yeah, there's There's a list of things that we can use it for and a list of things that we cannot use it for. But I think that we gotta add education in there.
Is it education in general, or is it like driver education?
Driver education, so you can use it for younger driver education, because again, the whole idea is the premise of safety.
All right, let's talk about this. In the vein of it being for allowable for educational purposes, could that be used to fund like a DARE officer or an SRO?
This is driver safety.
Okay.
All right. You know, I do know that this last session, the legislators tried to get something going on loosening some of that up. I don't think it was in the area there. I think it was more DPW related. They were not successful because of the way the session went. I think it's coming back around this next time. So they may soften up the language, but the idea is if you know, the whole purpose is traffic calming, safety and stuff like that. The result is revenue, right? So, and then they understand it's going to be revenue. They want it restricted to certain areas. The towns that have implemented them have seen large buckets of funding, and saying, okay, well, can we use it for these other things? That's pretty restrictive right now, but I think it's going to open up, but I don't think it's SRO or DARE related.
Okay.
And if we hired anybody, it would be my recommendation that you would hire somebody, if it wasn't police officer related and we weren't going to use it to pay overtime, you would hire somebody part-time and a civilian or something, or an ex-police officer, somebody with any knowledge or common sense that would be part-time, because if the revenue did dip and you had this program that you sunsetted, you wouldn't want an employee attached to that.
Okay. Did I miss anything else?
That was basically it.
Rick.
You talked about adding police overtime for the going through the data and that. I thought the whole idea was to hire somebody non-sworn officer to do that kind of work.
It would be whatever you guys wanted to, but if it reverted to what the statute says is if there's a cost to it, whether it's a civilian, whether it's a police or whatever, then this program could pay for that. Where we're saying is if it falls on the police, we can only do it through overtime. We're maxed out. We can't have an officer pulled off the road and say, okay, go through 7,000 tickets, because they would never be able to. It's got to be a dedicated thing where you sit down for maybe 4 hours and go through it. Not like I got to go answer a call or go do this.
It doesn't seem to me like something that would require a police officer, trained police officer to do.
It's not. It does. It actually says any municipal.
You can't ever use a policeman unless everything was backed up so bad.
Let's just say with the process, things move at times in government. It's not at a rapid pace. If this was to go live, we would not have a person available. We would be a police officer. We don't have an SRO. We don't have a traffic officer. We don't have enough bodies now as it is. To take somebody offline to do this is completely.
I would hope you wouldn't.
No, we wouldn't. So say in the interim, we would have to plant somebody and say, do this for the meantime until the town can determine who's going to do this.
If you had somebody that had to do light duty, would be?
What I was going to get to. If we had somebody coming in for light duty and they had restrictions, but they can't lift or they can't do that, whatever, sit at the computer and just go away. So it may be a police, but if we had to do the police, we would have to hire extra, and that would be overtime.
And the reason I want it in here is because we don't want this at the end of the year, someone saying, where did this money come from? Well, no, we spelled it out saying that it's used properly. We don't want to do anything improper, be transparent as can be. The goal is to somebody who could, salary is doing it, absolutely. But in the interim, somebody's going to have to perform the duties.
Yeah, and I want to be very clear. As somebody, this has a potential to generate a lot of revenue. It's not what we're trying to do, but the police do not want to be attached to that at all. Anytime you throw buckets at the police, you start talking about, well, they're making quotas, this and that. We don't want anything to do. I want to be able to have the ability to say, you know what, can we tap this fund for a new radar or something like that? And or whoever you folks approve it. We don't want to be decision makers.
I would think if you started out and you had an expected large volume to begin with, and you had some idea that it's gonna drop off fairly rapidly, that you might even hire temps
Yeah.
to do the initial work,
However,
opposed to paying.
Down the city of Middletown is so busy, they have two part-time people whose only job is to do that.
Yeah.
No benefits or
Yeah,
whatever.
and I don't think we're gonna.
No, but I can tell you, it would be within the best interest of the town if we are anything similar to what they're doing to follow suit, because that would save money by
Yeah.
doing so.
Do you have any idea what they've seen as a drop off? As time goes on?
they've actually seen speeds go down, but not revenue drop off.
Really?
There is no
What is
shortage.
that? That doesn't seem to.
There's no shortage of people, with any awareness. That's the kindest way I can put it. People continue to make mistakes.
Do other communities have the same experience?
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few.
It's mind-boggling.
Stays fairly
It's mind-boggling.
So far, I mean, they're still fairly new to the state of Connecticut. Washington was the first town. Middletown's always talked about because they're the largest. It's basically like, that's what they see there. I mean, you put one on 140, you're gonna get a lot of cars. You're gonna get a lot of cars. It's 10 miles an hour over. I mean, think about it. Everybody looks down and says, oh geez, I'm doing 12, 13, 14, especially with the newer cars now. You could be doing 100 miles an hour. You don't hear anything. You don't see anything. Next thing you know, you're like, whoa, you know?
Of course, I never do that.
But yeah, I mean, so I think they haven't seen a lot. I think it will come. It's got to.
Slow speed down, but still enough people are over the limit still. It doesn't slow them down enough.
The problem is, and not the problem, I guess the good thing, if you look, it's mostly not residents getting hit. If you live in the area of 140, you know that, hey, I got to hit there on the way home, I'm slowing down. And again, most everybody has a smartphone now. Your phone pings when these speed cameras are moved. So it's not an I gotcha. You're not paying attention.
Yeah, it's, people are just paying it. They're just, writing that ticket as part of their bills, and then they're on to the next thing. They do the next thing, same thing. So.
In the interest of time, can I
Yeah.
pick a couple of these?
Okay.
So you all have a copy of a reply I gave to the first selectman and the chief. Just there's a couple things I think would be considered. In the ordinance, it spells out the town's local traffic authority, and they're gonna re-engage site selection every year. I think that should probably be narrowed down a little bit. The local traffic authority is the police commission, but it also chief and I do the lion's share of work there. So we make recommendations to them. So, the police commission, who doesn't look at the stats and data or deal with operations day to day, are they the ones who should be really looking at, hey, is it best to keep this on Newberry Road? A year might actually be a little too soon to actually reevaluate. It might be 2 to 3 years, my personal opinion, because again, you're first going to get people settled in there, then folks are either used to it. You can look at data by then. But also, we're also governed by the DOT's mandates of where we could put these. We might think Newberry is a great road, and they may say, absolutely not. It doesn't meet the metrics. You're going to put them here, here, or here. So that just might be something for consideration as to who's going to be reevaluated. This local traffic authority technically means a number of people if you look at it from the 36,000 foot view.
I took it very literally as you guys that, right? Because you guys are part of the local traffic authority as the police commission is the traffic authority, right? Like,
I took it as maybe this is the point. I took it as the police commission is the local traffic authority. So they would be reviewing it and actually gives them something to do.
Yeah, the police commission is the local traffic authority. The representative is myself by statute because we have to report back.
maybe it should be the LTA and the department representation or something like that.
That would be fine. But I mean, I look at, if we just kept it at this, I think you would give an opportunity to open the door for somebody to, hey, I'm going to attend the police commission meeting and I want to argue where this should be because they're the deciding factor at the end of the day, whereas they're getting information from us who are carrying the water for this project.
Or the LTA based on recommendation by the department administration or something like that.
We can clean that up. My opinion reading this was, it was a little broad and ambiguous. Again, there's some semantics things. I guess we can gloss over that. I guess one of the things meant operated. We really don't operate a whole bunch. Like it's talking about operating the actual mechanism. We're not really operating. We're not ever putting our hands on these machines. We're looking at data they send us and verifying that that data is good. Article 4, Section 1. maybe I'm reading into this, but it reads that the fees may not be contingent on the number of citations, which in theory, that's great. We don't want that to say, hey, they're coming out here and hitting every car to bump up their revenue. But technically, their monthly fee is predicated on how many tickets are generated. So I don't know if this is actually correct.
And that's the model. You guys have met with a couple of different vendors. That's the model across the,
Yeah.
I don't want to call it an industry, the baby industry. Right?
Yeah.
Basically.
I don't want to be disingenuous with the community to say like, no, that's not true. It's kind of is like just their fee, they're predicated on how many cars are cited. That's where they get their monies. Same with the town, us as the town. We have in the ordinance, and if we're putting it in there for potential future considerations, but it doesn't just cover, red lights, speeding. It also covers, stop sign, state traffic control violations. So I don't know if that was an oversight or if that's a plan for down the road.
I think they probably used AI to generate this for us, so yeah, we could probably strike that.
Was that
It just,
your draft?
no, this is their draft. It wasn't in mine.
That was in there.
I mean, I used AI too, but you gotta look at it. Gotta have the human in the loop.
Section C of Article 5, Section 1, right, talks about written warnings.
Hang on a second. Can you back up to the last point, the STC? I'm not seeing that.
It's Article 5, Section 1, enumeration of violations, number 1, subsection 2. It mentions red light camera.
I got it. So we're just going to strike section 2.
Yes.
Now that I've got these all spun around and it's.
These numbers, it was frustrating, those numbers.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy.
It talks about written warnings. Again, that just might be semantics, but nobody does written warnings anymore. Everything's generated by computer. I wouldn't want somebody getting hung up on that. In the literal sense, saying, hey, I didn't get my written warning from.
Just a warning.
Yeah, I think warning will suffice. And that kind of goes into section 2 of the citations. I wrote needs clarification. The way it reads is the town or employee sends out the tickets when they're found to be in violation. We don't send that out, the vendors send them out. So again, I think that verbiage needs to be clarified. Section 4 citation hearing, subsection B, it mentions contest their liability. So I have a couple college degrees, but English is not one of them. So I don't know if that's a proper term for like citation or violation, but if they want to contest their liability, that might be a legal term, which I'm familiar with, but I don't know if that could be something somebody pushes back on. Maybe it's a typo or that was an AI thing. Please, if you folks look at it and I'm all wet, tell me. That's what I saw. It didn't seem to read properly. But
All right, I'm one issue behind you. So say that piece again.
For section 4 citation hearing, says subsection B, contest their liability. I guess my question is that the proper term used for a citation violation, or are we using that interchangeably with something else?
Just say the citation.
I think the citation.
Yeah, I think it's another word. It might have been AI or something like that.
I don't know that AI was used for this.
Or even if it wasn't AI, it's just,
AI, that's one of the things they're gonna get rid of is the paralegals.
Yep.
So the next one is, this very much echoes what Chief Carl just said, section 4 citation hearing sub B. Citation hearings conducted by the LTA or designee. And I think the first one of the handful of times I've talked about this with the town here is I personally am vehemently against having police involved in the appeal process. I don't want there to be a perception of us being judge, jury, or an executioner. Meaning this is a law enforcement tool for speeding. You get cited and now you want to appeal that and now you got to go back to the police and they get to decide whether it's justified or not.
So one of the, I'm gonna just give you history. It's gotta be, we have to be smart about this because years ago when we gave town tickets, parking tickets and other town ordinances, the appeals process became, it was difficult because of the volume that was coming in. We actually stopped writing town tickets and switched over to state statute because they couldn't keep up with it. There was no hearings, it was issues with that. It's the same hangup we have with alarm ordinances. I want to put an alarm ordinance in and hit these people for 3, 4, abusive alarms. We don't have a municipal appeals process robust enough to handle that. So this would be part of that, whoever that was, to be able to do that.
Would you suggest be the appeal authority?
Well, first of all, we're going to talk about how I would do that. I think that you have to open it up to people that can attend after hours, which is a difficult thing to do. But could you imagine you get a $50 ticket and you want to contest it, or a $35 ticket, you want to contest it, but you have to not go to work because your Zoom online, I think it needs to be online option or something. But your hearing was during the day, right? So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is Lenny Norton our municipal appeals guy now?
He is a hearing officer. I'm not sure which subject matter falls under his bailiwick. I know he doesn't. There's not a need for him to perform the function.
I think the town would have to offer an online, at least the evening hour, a set 4 block or something with the evening hours, so that if somebody wants to appeal this, that there's different options. Who it should be, I'm not sure. I know who it shouldn't be, and that's any of us. Because could you imagine logging on, I want to contest my ticket, and there's a chief of police. Oh, yeah, it's like going down south and, the judge is the cops.
I'm envisioning who it should be.
I don't know.
Also not the first selectman.
Or any elected.
Or the deputy first select.
I mean, I know it's hard to find volunteers to do stuff, but maybe there's a separate board altogether for appeals.
I was thinking that same thing, and I don't know how you put that together, but because it's hard to staff. And you don't want to get it like it's too big and you can't have appeals because you don't have a quorum, or it's got to be a one-person thing or one person doing it, but 3 people eligible or something like that.
What are other towns doing?
You know what? I'm not sure about that. I don't know. Back in the day when we had one that was for the parking, it was Mr. Watts. You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if he was associated with the town at the time. I'm not sure.
Well, it became Cliff Nelson at a point in time too.
It did.
Watts was teacher, right? Or superintendent, or?
He was first selectman too.
Yeah, but
not at that time though.
No.
Yeah.
I think a lot of other towns have more robust ongoing ordinances that are used for other parking things. Parking on grass, too close to hydrants, too close to intersections, being in front of a fire hydrant, handicap, like the town's missing the mark by not being able to enforce those because we don't have that. But if we did, those are also opens the doors for more enforcement in town down the road, which I think by proxy as well, address some of the safety concerns we're already seeing. Best example right now is exactly across the street, which we deal with. You start saying, we have to deal with generating tickets from, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but we have to generate tickets on our electronic pad, and we're sticking them on windshields because the chief said we're doing Connecticut General Statute. To have an officer hop out with a ticket book, like, no, you parked on the grass in front of the school, it's $25, and you can appeal it or you can pay it. It's that much quicker and that much easier.
So the town ticket book's about this long, it's narrow, and there's a whole bunch of checks for the ordinance. You just check it off and handle.
So putting somebody in place would be beneficial for the town planning down the road. So again, rabbit hole, but
going forward, could you provide us with options of what other communities have done?
Absolutely.
I also would be curious relative to the speed cameras, just a general question. Of the towns that have programs that have been approved, which town is the most substantially similar to us in terms of population and geography? I'm thinking specifically proximity to state highways.
The closest population and also whatever's going to be Winchester. They're new to it, but they don't have a 91, right? And stuff like that. But if there's other considerations, I mean, Weathersfield is going live and they're a little larger than us, but we can find that. Certainly can find out what they're doing. Give you some options.
And Washington's smaller, but that like
Washington,
that only helps us because what are they doing? They got to be doing something, and they're raking it in over there. They're getting a lot of violations. So
yeah, they got one camera, one road, and other than the horse that goes through once in a while, but they get $500,000 in 6 months.
I don't even think I've been to Washington, Connecticut.
I've been through there where that is. It's dangerous. It was a great idea to put it there.
Mhm.
So again, in the interest of time, we can definitely figure that out with other towns. That's just a couple of phone calls. Section 5 for appeals, I was unfamiliar with what this was. Just to be honest, I'm gonna kind of play ignorant here. Not gonna play, I am to the fact of, I'm not sure what that was. Was this, I got a ticket, I appealed it, I got denied, and I want to appeal it again? I wasn't exactly sure what that
Came out of the statute, I believe.
Yeah.
There is. And it's more described in there.
Yeah, the local appeal is not going to be final.
Yeah, so that's like the last chance rant thing, correct?
Yeah, they get to go to court. They have the decision to bounce it up.
Right. The other one, and this is something I think definitely needs to be, these two to me need to be omitted because it's not applicable to most of the programs. You go to subsection C under section 6 defenses, sections C and D. Now, I'm gonna ad lib here because I don't have it in front of me. Other observable orders or directions will not be recorded as the device only captures places. So basically it says a observable order from an officer to go against traffic could be used as a defense. And it's not going to capture anything but your marker plate anyways. So this isn't applicable to the ordinance, and neither would be subsection D. It's not going to capture that affirmative defense.
It's probably more like if you had a red light camera, right?
Yeah, yes, this just grabs your plate. So those two would not be, C and D, because D is very similar, would not be applicable to this ordinance itself.
Okay.
So subsection, section 6, section 1, again, Mr. Baker, I understand you want to keep certain things in there. My contention is if we start putting so many things we can't do, I think it's very much covered broad-based. If you're not using the information for anything other than law enforcement purposes, it's not to be used. That covers everything. It's a very broad stroke. It should be. Whereas we start labeling 4 or 5 different things where we can not use these for. I can think a broad stroke of all information gleaned from here stored in inlets, which is outside in a separate server, can only be accessed and utilized for law enforcement purpose. We can't use that for the voter registry. We can't use that for, central pilot program of finding unregistered cars. We're not using it for anything but we wouldn't have that anyway. We have to follow those rules.
I also think you would want to be able to use the information for predictive policing, for behavioral analytics, for travel history databases. That all makes sense. You would want to have that data available for those purposes. I agree with the board. I think I speak for the board that civil immigration enforcement is not something we want to allow this information to be used for. I don't really know why you would want to use it for biometric identification or demographic inference.
Can't anyway, it doesn't do it.
Right. Commercial exploitation is also a no-no.
No, right. I think the only thing you're going to get is you can get analytical data, like how many cars were ticketed going through there, whatever the case is, but.
You would want that information.
Yes, but even like the ones that are going on the highways, up on the highways now, or in the work zones, they once they've clicked on that, the image is gone. Even the company can't get it back. You've accepted it, that's it. The ticket goes out, that's what you have, but you can't get back to that and give it to anybody or say, well, can we, this car had gone through, we think it was used in a homicide or whatever the case is. Do you have it captured on there? On the speed cameras, you can't get to that information. The LPRs, you can, but on the speed cameras, you cannot.
And so I guess my stance would be, to your point there, for selectmen, if we're saying it's for law enforcement purposes only, and then the very next subsection caveats are or here's basically where it's used for. Here's the circumstances which it falls under.
I think we do want to enumerate some of the things specifically that you can't use it for.
I do. I think it's important for people to be able to see right in black and white, like this, these are the things you would not be able to use this for. I just say law enforcement purposes, a lot of people aren't going to understand. These are the things that are not going to be used. I think it's important to be verbose in these types of situations. And
But also caution you, folks keep saying ICE. There are circumstances where ICE or any federal agency, we would cooperate with certain circumstances. So just understanding that.
you'd be more likely to probably use an LPR though for that than,
What's that?
I said, you'd probably be more likely to use an LPR than your traffic enforcement camera.
Yeah, FBI can call and ask for any kind of information if they have a federal warrant. So certain things fall in the parameters.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Did you say a warrant?
If they were calling for a warrant, there's also exigent circumstances too. And that's not spelled out in here too. Meaning that somebody now falls under a terrorist watch list. This just happened and here's an ongoing threat. Obviously, we're not going to have our hands tied to not disclose information if that's something that comes forward.
This also isn't lifetime data. This is going into a database with 7,000 other tickets that somebody's got to peruse through. You're not going to be finding that in 15 minutes.
There's a potential that you could. If we're going on the what ifs, I don't want to hamstring anything. We're going to follow policy. We're going to follow state law to the letter of the law. But I want to make sure we spell out here things that if there are circumstances where it goes outside of that, we can say, well, we're never going to cooperate with so-and-so. That's not exactly true. It's not.
I think, again, if I'm speaking for you here, tell me I'm wrong, but I would be perfectly comfortable with you guys cooperating with outside law enforcement, just not using this data to do it.
Yeah, and I think we're, the cooperating with ICE, first of all, if anybody cooperates with ICE, the statutes it's pretty clear. You have to go through the chief of police, right? So the entire department it goes up to me and I make the ultimate decision on whether we do anything or not. One person, that's it. They report up to me. And that's the end of it. They're not going to cooperate with anybody else. But that's a mass dump of data, which we would never do. An individual incident where somebody got a ticket or something like that, if they had a warrant, we would review that. And of course, obviously, I would bring in the deputy chief and sit down and have a conversation about that and decide if they had proper documentation to release that. But it would be a one incident and I can't imagine, you never know what little clue is going to bring something together. I don't know if it's a ticket or not, or whatever the case is, but I mean, there's only certain circumstances that we would ever cooperate with that. But if they had a federal subpoena or something like that, then we would have to. But the mass dumping of things, if they came to it with a federal subpoena and said, we want to mass dump everybody that went through your traffic speed camera thing, we wouldn't have the ability to do it. We don't have the ability to do it. We just couldn't do it. Even though there's data there, whatever, it's just not something that they can do.
So that's essentially the other things that just came down is we already covered the 30 days destroying information. It's obviously not permissible. And again, my belief that we should have something on here for ongoing active investigations, which may fall under exigent circumstances. If you're not comfortable with that, that's fine, but understanding that if indeed that ever push came to shove, that's where we would be going.
I mean, I guess I would want to look at the statute itself because it does speak directly to that. And I think it says court-ordered warrant, something like that, but.
Order, yeah.
And so, I mean, I think it's covered in the statute.
Fair enough. And the last was, and we talked about it at the beginning, we kind of flipped this upside down, is putting police use for overtime and traffic enforcement equipment as well as education would need to go in for section 5.
Cruiser would be traffic enforcement equipment.
A traffic one would, for a cruiser, whatever. And I was more thinking about we just replaced 3 of our fixed radars. They were $3,600 each, and I only have equipment of 4,000. So we had to be creative about how we were going to get those items because there were.
Because I think it says the way I read the statute, like cruiser fits.
Yeah.
And you see it different, but
I would have to, I'm too old to be making landmark cases. When I was younger, I was no problem, no problem. Let's just, let's just try it. I'd have to call somebody and say, hey,
But so, doing, yeah.
what are people doing? One of the reasons why we lagged on this and held back was to see first guy through the door always gets bloody, right? So we're just trying to figure out who's gonna do this type of stuff and what they did, what they're doing. I think that part of the legislators last year were trying to do that. I think who spearheaded it was down in the Guilford area. It was a female. I can't remember her name, but
Christine Cohen, Senator Cohen.
Okay, yeah. So
There's the Transportation Committee.
there you go. So she was trying to get, I don't want to say trying, but she started the conversation of those types of things. Cruiser would be nice because he could fall off a CIP,
Right, because, I mean, we're looking, I mean, number one, it's public safety. We all agree on that. There's no argument there. And the thing where obviously we can't, ignore the elephant in the room of the potential for the revenue, and that revenue should be used in a way that it decreases the taxpayer's burden for the most part. I mean, there's other things like the education and stuff that's an add-on and enhancement, things that like enhance public safety. But I think the bulk of the dollars should be decreasing taxpayer burden.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that buying cruisers does that. It frees up room in the CIP for other things we need, or drops that budget down a little bit,
Well, I mean, I know for like paving roads, I mean, if you assess this to traffic safety and it's paving on roads, the CIP is loaded with paving requests.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the other thing, if you guys are good with your stuff, and I apologize, and I'm glad that there's other edits, so it's not just me holding this up, but I had been thinking about this for a few days and I didn't get it out to Amy. I wanted to talk to Amy. So I'm thinking about the revenue and, how you logistically set that up. And obviously we need some sort of a fund. And I was just thinking, because Amy's drills it in our heads all the time, don't create a hole in your budget. So, say we take in $100,000 in 1 year and we spend it on, it goes into the budget. It's all used up in the next year. We take in $25,000, and now we've created a $75,000 hole in the budget that has to be filled somewhere else, right?
I don't think we would budget this as operating revenue.
shouldn't be.
But we're going to be taking, like, say we spend, money on roads, right? Like paving roads that, if they decide that, in 5 years or in 2 years that, you could use it for paving roads. So now you're directing that money, to your paving budget. And then all of a sudden the state says, oh, well, you know what? You guys are all making a ton of cash off this. We want a chunk of it. So now you went from making $500,000 to $100,000 because the state's taking it for something else. Now your paving budget you got a hole in your paving budget that you got to refill now. Right. So I feel like we need to, I guess where I'm getting to is like where we should like always keep, like, not spend the whole balance every year.
I see. So, all right. So what about this? If we were to set it up similar to how private duty is
I was
established,
just gonna say, it's the private duty fund.
but have parameters around it, like the balance shall not fall below X number of dollars.
Yeah, something like that, where it's just kind of smoothing it out.
Yeah.
So,
right. So you could amortize that, and like we did with the pension fund.
right, exactly.
I get what you're saying. So I still don't think that we would use this as operating revenue. I think that we would, in lieu of buying 2 cruisers this year, we would say, or $300,000 worth of paving or whatever the project. In lieu of that, we would repurpose that towards something else and draw that down off of the operating fund. Is how I saw we would do that.
Okay.
I think that's what Amy's going to say too, but.
All right.
we can
And that's
ask-
what I wanted to get her advice on that. And I'm thinking not like what we would do, who were here for all the conversations, but the Board of Selectmen 10 years from now, what are they going to do? Like the guidance that you need to put in. What if it's a whole new Board of Selectmen, right? At one point in time in 10 years, and nobody was around for these conversations and they don't know, there's a pitfall, right? So I'm just looking at that. And if there's nothing to do, if Amy says there's nothing to do, then there's nothing to do. But I just wanted to bring that up.
That's fair.
Can I make a suggestion? I'm just having been on CIP. I wonder if, how we started having conversation about LoSiP and how that works. And maybe that's kind of along the lines of what you guys are talking. just not grasping that, but maybe have it be part of the CIP conversations, because it seems like most of the stuff is like capital parts. So you're talking about the roads, you're talking about cruisers, you're talking about all the things that they would come forward for CIP. Maybe you have it in the CIP conversation.
I think the conversation should stay with the Board of Selectmen because there's other non-capital expenses like the overtime considerations. I mean, that's not a capital.
I think it should too.
Okay.
But I think
And then the Board of Finance will disregard it and do something different and we'll be in a pickle. Not that ever happens.
The only other suggestion I was gonna make, other than I saw a notation about social security, and I don't know how social security, when your plate gets run, social security will come up. It said something about social security number.
Let's see,
Should have wrote.
oh, you know what? I did see that in there.
And I was just kind of,
It's a demographics.
Yeah. that was interesting. And the
Where
other
did I see that in there?
reason I would suggest is we take the fees out of this, because if you have an ordinance with fees in it and then you want to change the fees, don't you have to change the ordinance? So fees out and have it be set in a different way.
well, you either set it by ordinance or you set it by statute. So I don't know what the,
Which
Set
is,
it by ordinance, or you could say in statute that the Board of Selectmen shall annually establish the fees.
because didn't that just happen with, building or something like that?
a few years back.
With wetlands, we wrestled with this when we did the fee ordinance for wetlands. We wanted to make sure that we wanted to have it separate, but I think we had to include it, is the way it ended up being.
I would just suggest like the
It had
word
to-
somehow could
Yeah,
adjust it if you needed to with
good
it.
point.
Not sure you could,
Yes,
by the
sure.
statute, use funds for just.
I read it
meal
yesterday,
pay.
and I thought I saw it.
No, you couldn't.
It wasn't.
To justify something.
Today.
Real quick.
Yeah, and like, so today it's like, really sidewalks and traveled bike lanes and
If you had a road that was really deteriorated, that needed a reconstruction, and it was
a realignment,
unsafe, you might be able to spend funds.
visibility or widening or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, I think there's lots of ways you could.
You know how that curve, when you don't do road maintenance, all of a sudden
Oh,
spike.
there it is.
At a certain point.
Section, well, Article
She
2,
might be able to do it.
Section 1, personal identifiable information
Yes.
definitions. I just
Oh, yes.
there and I wasn't too sure.
It's personal identifiable, maintain town ordinance,
Does it
describe
pick-
owner, but not limited to the owner's name, address, social security number, phone number, email. Address. I'm not sure. I mean, that stuff doesn't come up when you're on a plate.
So I wasn't too sure.
I just, maybe it's under definitions.
Okay, maybe it's just a standard definition.
Yeah, talk about bank account and credit card information. We don't get that when we're on plates.
That's why I saw it and I thought,
You could get that when somebody pays their fine.
Good.
Everything but the social security.
Yeah.
I just wasn't too sure if that would come up, so, because.
The only time we would ever, we're giving for traffic wise, the only way we would ever get a social security number is if it's a misdemeanor summons and we're giving you a summons to court. We have to get that as part of your arrest record because that's technically an arrest.
Okay.
But for our purposes for this, that would never come up.
Okay, I got edits on every page. Are we, is there anything else for the good of the order on this?
The other thing I would just mention, if we're gonna be revisiting this one more time, the town can also, I'm 99% on this and I will get you a definitive answer. 99% sure the town can also assess a late fee as well.
I thought I saw that.
Maybe that's in there, but I'm pretty darn certain.
We can assess a late fee. I thought I saw it. Give it a double check.
Middletown does.
Yeah. Oh, it's a processing fee. Okay.
You might want to check the statute on that. I don't think you could add that, a late fee on top unless it's said so by statute.
I think the statute lets you.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We will check it.
Who would do the independent audit of vendor compliance? So that it's not just financial, is it?
Yeah, no, and I was thinking about that. There's, the end of the road is not the ordinance. We have policies to do after, if we get an ordinance passed and actually do this, then we have policies to set, like the hearing, the, how that's, who's gonna be responsible, who kicks it off.
We would have an internal policy as well covered in that.
I wonder if we couldn't just use Mahoney Sobel for that, or whoever the town's auditor is.
That would be perfect.
And we could, any change in fees structure, we could pay for, I'm sure, out of the money, because that's an
It
administration.
does say the administration of the program, and that's part of it.
I'm sure whatever vendor we went through already has probably had to go through this at some point, or they're preparing, depending how long they've been live, what process and how that was used for that particular town.
Yeah, but it still should be an independent third party.
No, what I'm asking is asking them who approached them to do this? Like if it was Washington, who did Washington use, their vendor, what did Washington use to audit them?
Yes, we have that to do if we get that far.
My only other suggestion about the whole process would be, and again, it's long-term, we've spent a lot of different meetings talking about this. I would suggest if it's possible, once we decide to, yes, send it to a town meeting, that we have some kind of forum so that the public can understand this and ask questions, so it's not tied up in the town meeting. I don't know if that's possible to have a question and answer.
You can have a public hearing.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Because I think, I think they should be able to answer questions and directly coming from them. I think it would benefit us all. That's just my opinion.
I have no problem at all doing that. I don't think that's gonna make the town meeting even a minute easier, because people who are gonna complain about this are gonna come to the town meeting only.
But I think you're going to educate people, and I think that it's not just going to be the people who have been sitting in this room. I think that you're going to.
Following Fairfield, they, I don't think, had a lot of public input in their process, and they had to shut it down, amend it. Yeah, it's a lot of, they got the senator involved, and it's like to not have that.
I would hate to have, they've spent a lot of time also in this, and I wouldn't want it to be wasted, so.
Okay, so this will be back. I think we made good progress on this, though, in terms of shaping it up. Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
What's paperwork?
Tax refunds.
Caught me off guard. Make a motion to approve the tax refunds in the amount of $250 to $4.87.
Second.
Motion made by Alan, seconded by Heather. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
All members in favor. All right, Selectmen's reports. I just have a brief one, and they're the topics I covered in my call this evening. So just a reminder that Tuesday is the budget referendum. It is a 2.54% spending increase, which, the tax increase is what it is, but if we default to the 2% trigger that's in the charter, it's a 2% spending increase. So an apples to apples comparison is to say we're at 2.54 versus 2.0. On Saturday, the 13th, town will be hosting a rabies clinic right here in this room for domestic animals. And because June is also dog registration month, the town clerk's office will also be open that time, so you can come and get your rabies vaccine and register your dog all at the same time. Rabies vaccines are going to be $20 per animal, and that's different from last year, but the reason is that we had to use a different vendor. Fenton River had been doing it, and I can't remember who the new one is, but they charge a different rate, so that's the rate that we have to go with. And then coming up on the 27th, there's going to be a parade and an ice cream social commemorating America 250. This is put together by the East Windsor Historical Society. Again, there's going to be ice cream at the end of it. I'll probably mention that a couple more times because I like ice cream. It's from Toll Meadow Farms in Simsbury, and there's going to be ice cream. So the parade is going to begin at 11 a.m. It's going to step off on Mahoney Road, go down Mahoney to Wells, and then over to the Historical Society. If anybody wants to watch it, I would suggest camping out someplace close to the Historical Society. If anybody wants to march in it, you can email eastwindsorhistory@gmail.com. And the whole day is going to run from 11 to 4. And they've talked about also having some things commemorating the Declaration of Independence itself there. That's all I have. Rick?
No cage match?
No cage match.
There'll be ice cream. Yeah.
There will be ice cream. Did I not mention the ice cream?
I think you did.
Nothing.
All right, Heather.
I went to a Water Pollution Control Authority meeting, which my first time going there, it was kind of interesting. I'm looking forward to going a couple more. That was it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I had a wetlands meeting last night, which I completely forgot about until today. So I didn't make it, and they probably didn't have a quorum, and I was one of the factors for that, so mea culpa.
At least you didn't miss anything.
It was a light agenda, I'll say, but yeah.
We're going to move on to our second public participation. If there's anybody who would like to address the board, please state your name and your address, and then state your business. And then I don't think there's anybody left online, so we'll call it a night after that. Is there any public participation? Name and address, sir.
Point sharing. I just want to circle back to the unregistered car situation. I have to agree with Selectman Baker about that here. What you're doing is you're poking a hornet's nest with a very short stick. Okay, you can have people who live in New Hampshire, work down here, stay here during the week, go back home. Their car's registered in New Hampshire, they live in New Hampshire. So how do you sort that out? Secondly, motor vehicles, anything according to the state that you can put people in or a product in, you go down a highway with, depending on what part of the state you ask that question. Now, in our town, in the past, and I've seen them in Enfield, I haven't seen anything lately, but tobacco, they take a car and cut the doors off of it and section it up and use it for a tractor to haul stuff around. That's a VIN number on that. And VIN numbers go back over 100 years. So anything laying in the field has a VIN number on it. And they are taxable. And so are vehicles such as the $20,000 lawnmower, $25,000 lawnmower that the guy's mowing his big field with. Just an average person with a big field. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna really whack that hornet's nest and you're gonna get bit. Because you're opening up something that just is 10% of the cars in town. I really doubt that number is correct. I think it's well below 1%, if that.
Okay.
But a suggestion, they should look on the town's list. What the tax people are paying, they have in question. And they could see if they have a vehicle in their driveway's been sitting there for 3 years, if it's registered or not. If it's registered, it's taxable. If not, there's one you collect. Seems like there's a lot of different avenues. You know, we're not Waterbury. I get it, Waterbury might have a lot more, but it's the farm town. That's it. Disgruntled number 3.
What was number 2? I got the first one. I got the third one. I think I missed the middle one.
No, you get the message. It was about the Parks and Recreation.
That was number 1. What was number? Okay.
What was number 1?
Oh, I see. I'm taking credit for his. I got it. Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn would be welcome.
To adjourn.
Moved by Heather, seconded by Rick. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:30.